we'll move on to the next topic, managing emotions. Yeah. So managing your emotions. So self-management for professionals, it is very important because it's the act of taking responsibility for our own emotions and how they impact our decisions and behaviors. Not only the behavior, but also the decisions. What is the kind of decision that we are going to take? So this responsibility helps one to take decisions that supports mental and emotional health. So these are all the different outcomes of why self-management for professionals. It motivates one to achieve the goals. It helps to overcome the stumbling blocks and to be persistent in achieving the goals. So we get to experience the emotions without being controlled by them. We need to control the emotions, not the emotion should control us. Okay, so in this case, he was totally out of control. So McEnroe was not controlling the emotion. The emotion was controlling him to throw the bat, to beat it, to behave arrogantly, to speak such kind of words. The emotion, the anger was controlling him. That is not a good thing. No, somebody is sitting on the head and controlling us. We need to control. When we control the emotion, it is called as self-management. We are managing it. So it consists of 6 basic competencies. So in self-awareness, we saw 3 basic skills. Here we have 6 competencies. First one is emotional self-control. Like emotional self-awareness, emotional self-control is also very important for the self-management cluster because again here, this is the key. Like this is the outcome. This is something which is going to say about, it is going to speak about us. The next one is trustworthiness. So here we have certain words or certain attributes which has different meaning in English, and in the connotation of emotional intelligence, it has slightly different meaning. So trustworthiness is not like trusting, but here it means how much you are able to self-manage yourself so that you become trustworthy for others. If you know that somebody is in control, definitely we will trust them, right? So you know, only if the driver is in control, we go in the bus or we go in the car because we know that he is in control. So when you know somebody is self-managing, somebody is having that self-control, then we trust that person and we talk to him or we ask certain things. So that is the trustworthiness. Conscientiousness. Conscientiousness is it is a characteristic of a person where he is very true and very not dedicated, but very authentic, conscientious. What is right, he will do, whether it is okay for him or whether it is not okay for him. Even if it is going to hurt him, he know that this is the right thing and he does it. That kind of very sincere person is conscientious person, who acts according to his conscience. Like, and adaptability, how much you are adapting to the changing situations. And achievement oriented, you need to have some kind of orientation towards achieving something, not very free, but having some goal. And initiative, you are taking charge, okay, and you are taking responsibility. These are the 6 major competencies which come under self-management. We are going to see each one of these. The first one, emotional self-control, the very, very interesting one. Just like emotional self-control, emotional self-awareness, emotional self-control is also a very interesting topic. Once you understand it, you will be able to see how it is actually playing in our life. Okay, so it is the ability to keep disruptive emotions and impulses in check. For example, in this video that we saw, John McEnroe, it was his disruptive emotion, his anger. He did not keep it in check. Okay, he was very impulsive. He just threw the bat and he was, thrashing everything around him. And to maintain one's effectiveness, even under stressful or hostile situation. Okay, so even if it is stressful, how you are maintaining your effectiveness says about self-control and staying clear-headed and very calm. So this is emotional self-control. How much you are able to regulate your emotions, how much you are riding your mind, in a very regulated way. That is emotional self-control. And here I've given a shared quote by Aristotle, which is so important. I mean, so interesting. Anybody can be angry. That is easy. But to be angry with the right person and to the right degree and at the right time and for the right purpose and in the right way, that is not easy. Okay, to be angry is very easy. I am not saying that angry is always a negative emotion. Anger is an emotion that we require. Fear is an emotion that we require. That's why it is being given to us. Okay, if we are not afraid, then even when a wild animal comes in front of us, we will not react, or we will think what we can do instead of running. Okay, so fear is a necessary emotion. Fear is something which is required. Similarly, anger is also a necessary emotion. But are we using that so correctly? Are we using it in the right place with the right person at the right degree? Okay, at the right time, for the right purpose, and the method that we have to show. Anger can be expressed in different ways, by beating or by scolding or by showing face. Any right way is there. When you're doing it everything correct, then you are in emotional self-control. Okay, so those days itself people have talked about emotional self-control. So what is actually happening? That we'll see biologically what is happening. Okay, so what happened to John McEnroe, or what is happening to us? Many of us must have experienced, we're going out of control and spilling some words. Later on, we would think, why did we say that? No, we should not have done that. Maybe we beat the child and we think, oh, I should not have done that. It's he was very natural in asking for the sweet. Why should I beat? There are so many instances where we have felt why I did it. Okay, so why we did it? It is because of what has happened inside this brain. You can see this is a highly developed brain, the human brain, Homo sapiens. And in the front, there is something called as neocortex and prefrontal lobes. These are not developed in any other animals except for chimpanzees. All the other animals will have a flat face and they will not have this pulpy brain part, the neocortex or the prefrontal lobes, because that is the latest developed in evolution. Whereas the brain stem, which is shown in the pink color, no, that is the very primitive part, which was developed, which is there even in reptiles, even in lizards or snakes, it is there. Right? When we see something very nice, we feel happy. So on the reception through seeing or smelling or tasting or hearing or by feeling, these 5 senses is being taken by this thalamus, and the thalamus will process this information by sending it to the neocortex. Neocortex is the front part of the brain, this frontal lobe. So here is the thinking part, because man only thinks. Man has that 6th sense, no? We say it thinks. Thinking is the 6th sense, and the sensory information comes to the front part and we think, and then it comes to the amygdala for any reaction that has to be given. Okay, so this is one regular process that actually happens. So when somebody is asking a question, did you complete that assignment or what part is left out? We receive the information through hearing, we process it in the neocortex, we see what are the completed parts, what are the incomplete parts. That is the process that is happening in the neocortex. And then we reply, yeah, a major part is completed, a few is pending more, maybe I will complete in a day or 2. This is the reaction or the response that we are giving, not reaction, the response that we are giving. This is the usual way that a human being have to function. But there are times when the senses are directly coming to the amygdala and not going to the neocortex. Neocortex is the thinking center. Yesterday, I heard you had critical thinking sessions and so many other thinking sessions. All that is happening because of the neocortex. Now, when the senses are given to you and it immediately comes to the amygdala, we are not even using the basic thinking. We are not even seeing whether what the person says is true or not. Immediately we get angry. How dare you say that to me? Okay, so we react. We don't respond. We react. Or something which we don't like happens, we thrash the person, or that is not actually necessary. Okay, this amygdala functioning was given to us when we were living in the forest. Okay, when we were hunting. So when a tiger comes in front, there's no time to think. Bring it to the neocortex and think whether the tiger is dangerous, whether it is a young tiger or it's a old tiger, whether it is hungry or whether it is not. So it is not hungry. Why should I run? Let me go slow. There is no time for all that. You see it, you run it. You run. Similarly, when there is a snake, you have to jump. For that function, you have this amygdala. Now, living in the city, living here with people around, not with animals around, with people around, still when we go to that primitive amygdala's way of functioning, then we are not living up to our fullest extent, or we are not using the neocortex for what it has been given for. So when we are getting angry or when we are afraid and when we give very sudden reactions for which we usually feel we regret, that is because of this amygdala hijack. You must have heard this terminology, amygdala hijack. It hijacks the processing that happens in the neocortex. So when we drive in the car also, we shout. Immediately we, even sometimes we use some cuss words. We say, why did you do that? How? That's because there is no time for processing. We are all very decent people. We are all well-mannered people. How can I use this word? There is nothing. There's no time for that. Amygdala immediately hijacks and gives out that word. Okay, and we talk. So this happens in that example that we saw where we were asked to take the 20-minute break. When a closed one, whether it's a colleague or whether it is a person from home, when you're having discussion with the person and if it turns into an argument, you need to take care that you give the break when you're finding that the amygdala is taking charge and not the neocortex. Okay, so if we understand this, so this kind of science understanding really gives us a break. Okay, really gives us a pause. We can be quite happy that it is not my action, it is my brain. It is something biologically wired like that. Okay, so when you know that, okay, something is there and I can control it. Okay, so next time when you feel angry, you just subside. The very old method of saying counting 1 to 10, do that. And you remember this, okay, my amygdala is trying to take over. So let me wait. Let me see what is the actual thing that he's saying. What is it that I have to respond? Let me go through it and then let me say my words. Let me not spill it just like that. Okay, so for that it will help, because that is what only human beings can do. Not any other living thing can do that. Only human beings can do. And when we can do, we are not doing it, then it is not fair, right? So we've been given this highest form of evolution and very beautiful brain, then we need to make use the best of it, not use the primitive ones alone. Okay, when we are in a jungle, we can use that. So this is actually happening when emotional self-control is going out of control. So this I want you to understand. So when this happens is mostly when there is something which is happening very sudden. Our reaction also will be very sudden, and most of the times, 99%, it will be an inappropriate reaction. It won't be appropriate. That's why we regret later on. Okay, it would be inappropriate because we are taken over by that feeling or that thing which we did not process yet. Okay, later on you will know that, okay, what the person said was not so hostile or it did not carry so much animosity. Why did I react like that? You'll be able to see that. So for emotional self-control, especially when it is anger, you have these very simple tools. The one thing is very age-old method of counting 1 to 10, but counting 1 to 10 is not enough. At least you should count 1 to 100, because that break time that you have to give, like earlier I told you, like the anger would have aroused all the cells in the body to be angry. So to cool them down, to calm them down, you need at least 20 minutes, because all that is there, sending information through the nervous system to the brain, to be very hostile and, to be very harsh and all that. So for that to calm down, you need to give it some time. So you either take a walk, you go away from that place, you go away from that person, especially if you want to save the relationship. Okay, so that 20-minute break or counting from 1 to 100, sitting and counting from 1 to 100, it will help you to reduce that attachment towards that feeling and to see that the feeling is different, you are different, and what is more important, whether it is the relationship with the person is important or the fight that you want to win is important, or even if it is professional, you need to see that you want to make things work. not shout and delay it further, but you want to make things work. If you have that in your mind, then definitely you will take this break and then you will relate with the person. And another 3 more tools that you can do here is reflecting, reframing, and rehearsing. We'll be seeing a little detail in reflecting and reframing. I've given some examples. Rehearsing is where you pre-assess. Okay, you presume that, or you know that this is going to happen. So every time, say for instance, the boss is coming and asking you, you feel your tongue stuck and you are not able to talk, you are not able to even justify yourself. Right. Okay. It depends on what kind of boss and what kind of workplace that we have. At such moments where you know that this is the repeated thing that is happening, then you can rehearse. You can sit and rehearse at home. Whenever you're alone, you can rehearse by saying that, no, sir, I did not mean to say that. You are taking me wrongly. This is what I meant to say. You can just rehearse it in one way or the other, quite politely, not arrogantly. And then when it comes to the real situation, you can say that. It always helps. We all know, we prepare for the sessions. That rehearsal is important for the free flow of the delivery of the session, right? So that rehearsal will have an impact on the emotional self-control. You'll be able to control. This is one method. Another is reflecting. Reflecting is you are actually seeing whether that situation really warrants that kind of reaction from you. Okay, we will go for an example. I want you to think of a situation. Okay, something that really happened to you. Maybe you can note a hint on your notepad also. Something which really happened and triggered a very strong emotion in you. The emotion can be anger or fear or joy or sadness, anything. It can be irritation, anything. That which happened recently. You just note down. It can be even sadness or joy. I hope you got a situation. Okay. So now in that situation, you must have felt a very strong emotion, and maybe you would have said something or reacted, in a different way that you did not desire. So you would have done that. Now just go a little deeper and think why this situation brought out that strong emotion. Why that situation, okay, whatever that situation is, made your emotion so strong. You would have been angry many times, but this was very strong. Okay, that's why you had reacted that way. Why? What that situation did to you? What were you afraid of? Or what were you angry at? Just go a little deeper and think why this particular situation has caused this emotion so strong. It would have been definitely either due to some kind of fear or some kind of desire. Okay, these two are the main causes. Either it will be fear, or actually fear and desire itself is linked. Okay, when you have a desire, you don't want to lose that. So losing that is the fear. Okay, so in the fear, when you're having the fear, then you think that I don't want to have that fear. That is a desire. Okay, so both are like almost same in a different plane, like two sides of the same coin. So either it will be due to some kind of fear or some kind of desire. You just check what is the fear that caused you this insecurity or that particular strong emotion. Even if it is a happiness emotion, what is the desire that was fulfilled, that you got the strong emotion? What was the desire? Why you got so happy? Anybody else who was in the same situation may not have felt so happy, but you had felt. Why? What is that desire of yours that got fulfilled? You think, you self-reflect and write it down in your notebook. I'll give you a bunch of desires and fears. Most of the time at office place or in any professional place, even personal space, we have the fear of disapproval, whether it will be accepted by others or not. So we don't actually show off certain things. And sometimes we feel very angry because we were rejected. Fear of failure, fear of losing control, fear of dying. I've heard fear of dying is, I used to say that if I am going to die, I'm not going to miss anything. My loved ones are going to miss me. So I'm not having the fear of dying. But they say that if you're fearing that somebody, some close aid of yours is going to die, any close member of yours is going to die, it means that you are also having that fear of dying. Otherwise, you won't have that fear, they say. I'm not yet to realize that, but this is my experience. So fear of losing our jobs, fear of offending others. We don't say harsh things to others because we don't want to offend others. Fear of being alone. Many times we don't offend because we don't want to be alone. People will leave us. Fear of pain, fear of uncertainty, or we will have desire for wealth or for happiness. So say for instance, I value family bonding very much. Okay, and I planned a vacation for a very long time. For 3 or 4 months, I planned the vacation. And suddenly, either this COVID comes or because of some other official reason, I'm not granted the vacation. How much upset I would feel. It's not because I'm not able to go to that vacation space. It is because I'm going to disappoint my family. So this is reflecting. So vacation is getting cancelled. We would think that, yeah, so I have planned going to Simla and some very nice place. So that has upsetted me. But no, it is the desire of keeping my family happy. It is the desire of having a happy family bonding that is making me to feel this upsetness. That understanding is required. That is called as reflecting. You need to know the real reason why you felt that upset or you felt that disappointment. Okay, that is what I'm saying. You should not mislead yourself saying that it is because of this that I felt, because of that I felt this. You need to really look into what is the real reason why you had felt this. So these are all certain clues for you to understand why we react very strongly in a particular situation. This is called as reflecting. When you do some time for reflecting, then you can gain ahead in the emotional self-control. So this is one part. Another is reframing. Reframing is like you reframe things within your own mind. It is a tool to alter your own self-talk around a situation. The situation can be very different, very harsh situations, but how you react, how you talk to your own self, that matters. For example, what I think when emotions control me. So when I don't have emotional self-control, I'll be thinking like this. I can't believe I did that. I'm so stupid. Maybe I did a mistake. True, I did a mistake. What I'm going to do, I'm going to self-beat. I'm going to say I'm not worthy. I'm not good. Always I do this. I can't believe I did it. I'm so stupid. So I actually hurt myself again and again and again. Or maybe another situation I'll say, I'm never going to get this done. It's not at all getting completed. I'm going to be in trouble. This is not at all getting completed and I'm not. So you repeatedly say this. I'm not okay. I'm not okay. I'm not okay. You're saying that. Or you're going to a place, you don't like people around there. You don't like things around there. So you're saying this place is just awful. You don't like the place. Right? It's just awful place. Or no one cares what I think around here. Nobody's listening to me. That can be one state. Or I'm done trying, let them figure it out. I've told them so many number of times. I've given different options. They are not taking my options. So let them try on their own. Why should I struggle? Let them try on their own. That may be one reaction. This is the last time I'm going to try being nice to him. Every time I'm nice to him, he's giving some face back. Okay, I'm not okay with that. So again, I'm not going to show him good part of me at all. Okay, so these are all when I'm overflown with the kind of negative emotion. These are all the ways in which I do the self-talk inside me. Okay, some kind of crossing that goes inside me. So you can give me some alternate way in which if you are highly emotionally intelligent, what is it that you will say? For the first one, can anyone say, I can't believe I did that. I'm so stupid. Anyone wants to say?
I think for the first one, ma'am, we can say something like, I'm glad that it happened to me. I have learned a lesson from it.
Okay. Okay. So maybe being glad is next level. That is very difficult, but you have learned a lesson from it. That is very good. Okay. So that is one way of reframing. That is good. Yes, I made a honest mistake. It is frustrating, but I can fix it. As you said, I have learned a lesson from it and I can fix it. Okay. So this is one way of reframing it. The next one, can anyone say, I'm never going to get this done. I'm going to be in trouble. How would you reframe it? How many ever times I do it, I'm failing.
It could be, ma'am, I'll try to get this done differently next time so that I can avoid trouble. Or
yes.
so that I can, yeah.
Yes, yes. You can think of a different
option. Yeah.
I need to focus on the priorities
and ask for
help. Okay, so as you said, going for a different method is also a very healthy option. And going for what are the different priorities that I have, because this is not working. So I'm going to check it. What is it that will work? Okay, and then I'm also going to take some help. Yes, thank you, Manisha. And the next one, this place is just awful.
This place is not as I thought it would be.
Okay. Again, your focus is outside.
Okay. Or this place is just.
Some say this is an interesting place. They mask it.
Okay. So you're saying that somebody else is saying a lie that it is an interesting place. Okay.
Left to the other individual to actually understand what does it interesting mean.
Okay. You know, again, we are going to somebody else. Here it is self-control. I want you to look from your own self.
Ma'am, the choice of words was actually to be safe on the self side as well.
Yes.
You don't want to be using a word like awful, so you're saying interesting, but within your heart says that yes, it is awful.
Okay. Actually, you can say it actually is awful because I'm not in a good mood today. Okay, I'm not, maybe somebody else is feeling it interesting means that person is in a good mood or he is perceiving it different. So that's why I'm saying come back to you and see that you are, why it is not, why it is awful to you. Maybe I'm not in a good mood today. It's okay. Okay, so next time I will check to this place. Okay. No one cares what I think around here.
Ma'am, could it be that I expected something different? Could it be that way?
Which one? The place
is the same one. Yes, this place is just awful. It could be like maybe I expected something different, but or it did not match my expectations. Could it be that, or it is just we need to concentrate on the mood part of us?
No. What you said is also fine. It is not exactly. I mean, it is not always regarding to the mood.
Okay.
Say how you said.
Yeah. Thanks, ma'am.
Fine. Okay. No one cares what I think around here. Nobody is listening to me. My ideas are not always chosen. Yeah, I know that. Maybe so I will get some feedback on that last idea. So you know very well that your idea is not taken. Okay, because no one cares what I think around here. Here you are actually putting yourself down, but you are looking at it straightforward and you are seeing that, yes, my ideas are not always the chosen ones. Maybe why it is not getting chosen, I will get a feedback on it. Okay, I'm going to check why it is not working out, why people are not liking it. Okay, so that is the way you are you are taking a proactive step. Okay, I'm done trying, let them figure it out. I've given so many ideas, but they are not taking it. So let them figure it out. Or that's the last time I try being nice to him. Let me make sure that I have fully understood the goal. It will help me to, what can I do to help us get there? So I'm done trying, let them figure it out means maybe you are trying it in the same way. Okay. So you want to make sure whether I really understood the goal or not. So it means that again you're going back into the goal part, and you're not getting into the trying part, trying again and again and getting failing. You're not focusing on that failure part. Instead, you're saying, maybe I understood the goal differently. That's why I'm not able to achieve it. So you are focusing it onto the goal now. So you can see that there is some kind of different focus that has been given from the outside to the in, or from the in to the goal. Okay, so some kind of different focus is given in order to get things work. That's the last time I try being nice to him, but he's always showing faces to me. Maybe he's someone who doesn't want a friendly relationship with me, and it's okay. Let it be like that. Why should I always go at the back of the person who doesn't like me and who doesn't want the friendship? It's okay. It is his choice, and let me be on my own. Okay, so whatever works out for me, let me do it, and whatever works out for him, let him do it. So these are the different ways in which you see things in the real sense, not as what you want it to be. Okay, but you actually see the real things, and then you reframe it. Okay, so here the most important the thing that we need here is having an open mind. You need to be totally open to the situation, then only you can reframe it. Otherwise we'll be like closed, and we'll be like doing the same thing again and again. So this is one thing. So for emotional self-control, we do reflecting, reframing, and rehearsing. These are the 3 methods. And also we can, for immediate action, what we can do is taking the 20-minute break in order to avoid any unwarranted outcomes. Okay. So this is emotional self-control. The next is trustworthiness. So trustworthiness is from the context of emotional intelligence. Here, what we generally do is we don't want to give a negative opinion about ourselves to others. If somebody asks us, say the senior asks whether you can do it, we say yes. Whether you can complete that, yes. Whether you want to handle some extra session, yes. You don't want to say no, because no means it is saying that you are not capable of something, or you are not capable of handling multiple things. So we say yes continuously. We commit for work assignments without assessing our time and ability to complete it at the set time. Even in industry, when there is an order for different missions, what they do is they'll say, yes, we can do it in 4 weeks. Yes, we can do it in 5 weeks. But it will take like 8 weeks and 9 weeks, and it will be like terrible, not only for the manager, but also for the leader and also for the customer. Okay, so it is, so what happens results in giving up in the middle. So what happens, I become untrustworthy, the leader becomes untrustworthy. So there will be a chain of losing trust. So trustworthiness here means you will do what you say, and you're honest about what you can do and what you cannot do. If you are very clear about that, then you are a trustworthy person. Then you are emotionally intelligent. Okay, so it is not like at the first thing I want to say yes, and I want to give the positive impression, I'm going to say things that I cannot do also. I'm going to say yes to the things that I cannot do also. That should not be the case. Okay, so trustworthiness is assessing your own. So that self-assessment is required here. Assessing your own abilities, your strengths, weaknesses, your time, your capability, and assessing what is the work that you have to do, whether it is going to match yours and whether you are able to complete it. And then you entrust yourself with the work. Okay, so this is trustworthiness. It actually refers to maintaining integrity, that nirmay, that integrity between what you think, what you say, and what you do. So that is trustworthiness. Okay, it is integrity ultimately, or it is the consistency with one's values, emotions, and behavior. Trustworthy people really act with integrity. So it gives them the credibility with those around them, because others also will know that, okay, he's trustworthy, he does whatever he says. So next time I can trust him with the other work also. So maybe you will have to say that this I will not be able to complete in 4 weeks. I need at least 2 weeks more. Only then you'll be trustworthy again. Okay, so that is another important thing. So that will help you in your in your self-management. When they say that their word is their bond, you know that they can rely on that, because they say the truth. They actually commit to what is actually possible. Their values are consistent with their actions. So values are values are very, very important. We all of us work with values. Maybe we do not name them, we do not verbalize it, but we have certain values. We've been given with certain values, either from our school days or either with the experiences. Our value system may change. Okay, it's not that entirely it will be a very stern, hard and fast value system. It will be slightly changing also with our experiences, but we all have some kind of value system, and whatever decisions we make and whatever actions we do, it will be in line with that. Okay, if there is someone who is not able to take bribe or give bribe, he will never be able to do that, even for the very important thing that he has to do. Or even if he does, he'll feel at most very bad and very not like the other person who went very easily with that action of his. Okay, so trustworthiness is where my values and my actions are in line. Okay, so that you go with your values. So they are also prepared to confront those who act unethically and take a stand against the unethical behavior, even if that is unpopular. They are self-confident to even say that the other person is not trustworthy. Okay, so this is the second competency. So when you trust yourself, you can trust that you will respond to the emotion and not react to the emotion. Okay, reacting is from the amygdala, but response is from the neocortex. So when you trust yourself, it means that you process something, you actually check whether it is okay, whether it is not okay, what is it that is feasible, what is it that you can do, you trust and you will respond. So when you do all this, it means that you are responding, you're not reacting. And others also will be able to see that even if you first react, they will definitely know that you will respond, because that trustworthiness is the gap between the reaction and the response. Okay, they know that you are trustworthy. So on the trustworthiness, when it takes over, it is going to do the processing. It is going to do the responding part. And people also will start to trust you. So this is the second competency of self-control. I'm sorry, self-management. The third one is conscientiousness, like acting according to your conscience, or acting according to what is right, according to your values. So you remain alert and committed to the self-management practice. So conscientiousness is where you are checking that whether you're processing it and then giving the outcome, not just like that react. Okay, you take responsibility for your own emotions. Only then you are conscientious. It indicates that you take responsibility for your work and quality, even if your emotions are strong. Even if you're angry and you say something, you take charge for that, you take responsibility for that, and you say that it is my responsibility that I have uttered these words. It is not right on my part, and whatever correction that has to be done, you will do. Okay, so that is conscientiousness. So conscientiousness is like taking responsibility, and okay, that exercise comes next. So conscientious people, they hold themselves accountable for their actions because they are responsible. So they are accountable. So they stay committed to the task taken. Whatever task that they said that they will do, they will be doing. They are careful, they are organized, they are like a dedicated person. People can, conscientious person we can trust very easily, because you know that they will do. They say that thing, they have the methodology to complete the trust. That methodology is conscientiousness. Okay, they know what they can achieve and by when, and therefore they do not make any unrealistic promises also. They strive to do better. And it has been found with studies that emotionally intelligent persons are all highly conscientious, or conscientiousness people are all having high emotional intelligence. So this taking accountability, say for instance, this is outcome, the result of a less conscientious person saying. So he says, he made me angry. She irritates me. That incident upsets me. He disappoints me. These are the words from the less conscientious person. I want you to say, what will a conscientious person or a high conscientious person say? Can you say for the first one? He made me angry. What would you say if you are more conscientious?
I'm getting angry when I met him.
I am getting angry. Super. Thank you, Rajlakshmi.
Thank you.
She irritates me. What would you say? She irritates me. What is the conscientious person's response? Yes,
I'm thinking of,
I am irritated.
I am irritated.
Yes. Yes,
I'm irritated. I'm
Yes.
upset.
yes. You got the
I'm
Yes.
disappointed.
Yes, you actually take charge. You are accountable. It is not that he made me angry. That is not the truth. You are angry. Okay, it is not that she is irritating. You are irritated. I am irritated. Whatever she does or not, it is her thing. But if I am getting irritated, it is my thing. It is not her thing. Have you heard of the story of the empty boat? There was a monk, okay, in an ashram, and he used to sit and do very tedious tapas. Okay, he sit and does meditation very sincerely, and he gets very irritated with people around. They all come, they talk to him, or they say, "Please bless me," and they knock the door. So he'll be always irritated with people's annoyance. They will be always around him, seeking his blessings and all that. So one day he actually wants to do a very deep meditation. So what he does is, let me go to, there was a lake, okay, near the ashram. Let me go to the center of the lake. Okay. So nobody will wake up at this point of time. Usually these monks will get up by 2:30, 3 o'clock. Okay. So by 3 o'clock, he takes a boat. Okay. And he travels in the boat to the center of the ocean. The lake. And the whole town is sleeping. Nobody is there. He knows very well nobody is there, and it is a midnight for them. So for him, it is the right time for penance. So he comes, he sits in the boat, he closes his eyes, very peacefully he does the meditation to his heart's content. He's so happy because he can be totally with himself, and totally he can do the meditation like just the way he wanted, and he does. So as he's closing his eyes and doing it, suddenly there is a jerk on his boat. So he knew that there is another boat coming and hitting his boat. You should see his anger. It just rose, because at this point of time, when everyone is sleeping, and at this place where nobody can very easily come at this night time, even here people are coming and disturbing me. Even now they are not allowing me to be on my own. So he gets so angry, so violent, and he wanted to give some curse to the person, and he very angrily opens his eyes and sees there is an empty boat. So one empty boat from the shore has, slowly it got untied, and it just floated its way on the lake, and it came and it, hit on his boat and just stood there. Nobody was there. So did the anger come from the other person? Did he made me angry, true, or I am angry, true? The monk, anger is inside him only. It is not from the other person. The monk's getting irritation is from inside only. It's not from the other person. So even in the ashram, even with people around, if he has the capacity to be calm and to be in penance, or in, in that state that he desire to be, he will be able to. But he doesn't have that capacity, because even an empty boat can strike such a great anger inside him. So can you see the reality of how others are not affecting us? Okay, it is our others in our world that is actually affecting us. Okay, in Bible or in Bhagavad Gita, in many places they've told other is hell. Other is HELL, hell. It doesn't mean that the other person is wrong. The other person is hell. He's wrong. He's not the right one. It doesn't mean. The other inside your mind is hell. The other is a separate one. He's an individual. He also has similar rights as you to live, to do whatever he wants, and whatever. He is also a similar individual like you, with 100% equal rights as you have come to this earth. So the other is hell means whatever you are having him. So he comes and irritates me. He is knocking at my door. He is not leaving me to do the penance. So the he, it is not outside. It is actually inside. Most of us have the entire world inside here. The actual world may be different. We whatever we perceive is actually acting on us. We actually believe something false. We are actually getting cheated with our own self, with our own mind. We think that that person is having grudge against us. We really do not know whether that person is having grudge or not. It is his mind. Okay, let him have grudge or let him not have grudge on me or somebody else. That is his thing. Why should I bother it? That is his life, his karma, and he has to work on it. Me, how am I feeling? Okay, if I am angry, I'll be angry at any place. Whether it's an empty boat or whether it's people around, I'll be angry. If I'm not angry, whether it's an empty boat or whether it's hundreds of people around me, I will not be angry. I will be calm. Okay, so that is a conscientious person. When he realizes that, he will say, he is not making me angry, I am angry. He finds the assignment or the report full of mistakes, and he gets such an anger. It is that anger is not because of the person who made the wrong assignment. The anger is because he is not able to deal with that situation. The anger is because I am not able to see how I can help the person produce a correct report, or I am not able to deal with myself in seeing how this could be corrected or used. Okay, so that you will get that self-management, right? Only when this happens, you are managing your own self. Otherwise, you're managing others. You are trying to manage others. You cannot manage others, but you're trying to manage others. Okay, so this is conscientiousness. I hope you got this point also. So whenever you get angry, just calm down, because that person is not making you angry. It is something inside me that is making me angry. There is some root for that. Okay, you have to get into the root of the emotion. Some fear or some desire is me that is making me angry. I have to check what is the fear or what is the desire, and I have to see whether it is a right fear or right desire. The terms itself, no, fear or desire, it has some kind of negative connotation in us. So when we see it, we think that, oh, in the fear, I'm not worthy of this fear. We think that. Don't be like that. You see the fear, you see, yes, authentically, I have this fear. It will disappear. You needn't negate it, or you needn't shun it. Okay, because it's something which is yours. It is part of you. This is also you. Okay, so you have to address it, you see it, be aware of it, and it will take care. Okay, so this is a conscientious person. And the fourth competency is adaptability. So adaptability is required because change is inevitable. Change, everything will change. Always it will change. Change is the only thing that is real. So even when we go to the same office every day, same students every day, they are not the same students. Maybe in the register it is the same, but they are growing. They are having different things. So you can make sure that everything is changing. Okay, so there will be some very clear, explicit changes, like in our organizations, budgets may cut out, or people may change, positions may get different. I may get different work. I may get promoted or demoted, or divisions will reorganize, or duties may be, some rotation will be there. So this change will be there. And when I'm able to adapt to the changes, because that is inevitable, that is going to be there. Always there will be change. When I'm able to adapt to that, then I'll be able to control it. How can you change it? Okay, so these many days I was doing the same way of pedagogy. Now they ask me to do only online courses. Change is inevitable. Change will be there. How am I adapting to it? How am I changing my mindset to it? That matters. That is very important. Because uncertainty is the reality. Okay, and getting along with it, getting tuned with the uncertainty, that means that you are managing your own self. Okay, because things are going to change, but you are the person who's going through it. And as you do that adaptability, you are also changing. You are also going to a higher level. Yesterday, I was able to take only offline classes, but today I'm able to take both. I've grown. This is a simple example I'm saying. So like that, any challenge that you get or anything that comes in front of you, whatever changes that you're bringing in or whatever adaptability you're bringing in, you also grow. So this is another main thing in the self-management aspect. You're managing your own self. It refers to the flexibility in dealing with the changing situations and the obstacles. It entails having the flexibility to adapt to new situations or handling the change and to balance multiple demands. So these are all some things which we like to have, no? Like she is very flexible. She will adapt to any new situation. He is very good. He handles change very well. He balances any kind of demands. We like to hear such things. So we need to do such things. When we do such things, that adaptability aspect need to be there. We need to see that, okay, this requires some change in me also to do that different thing. Let me change it. Let me put in some effort. Okay, an adaptable leader can meet challenges as they arise and adjust their strategy based on what is needed most. So he sees what is required and he will act accordingly. They're comfortable with uncertainty that leadership can bring. Okay, so leadership always brings in different changes. Leaderships are mostly unpredictable. When you become comfortable with that unpredictable or with that uncertain situations, then you get that knack of adaptability. The studies have shown that leaders with high emotional intelligence can adapt easily to changing business situations or changing any kind of situations. So adaptability is another important aspect. Here I have one more example. You identify why this change is disturbing you. Okay. For example, you just think of any change that was given to you in your organization. And when you got irritated. Okay. So can you just note it down and think about it? For example, you get reassigned from one team or another. Will you really like it? Obviously, I won't like it. I want my team. I'm very comfortable with my team. Why am I not liking it? Why is it difficult for me not to adapt to the new team? Okay. You can write your own points. Why you are not comfortable with a new setting or new things? Maybe I'm not okay with the other, because these people are very friendly to me. I don't know how the other people are there. So uncertainty is there. And maybe I have to learn and put in more efforts for the new team because some extra efforts has to be done. Or it may be because of the fear of not getting along with the new boss or new team, fear of not having lucrative customers. This is for a sales team. So fear of not having attractive customers for his team, fear of losing top performer status. In this team, I was the best. And now I'm going to the next team and I'm not best. Fear of losing the privileges that I enjoyed earlier. So there are so many different fears which is not allowing us to be adaptable. Okay, some time back, like some 10 or 20 years back, getting into computerized systems was a very big resistance. Okay, people were not comfortable. Nowadays, we need computers, we need laptops. We are all, very well adapted to that. But initially, it was like that. They were not at all comfortable. They don't like. Similarly, in organizations also, when they bring in some new softwares, they resist totally. The resistance will be there. Why that resistance is there? Why I'm not okay with that? When you inquire into that, you will understand what are the fears that you have, what are the desires that you have, and why adaptability is so very difficult. Why this resistance? So understanding this in yourself will help you to, if you understand, it will really help you to get past it. So this is adaptability. And achievement orientation. So any successful person will have a dream, okay, a goal to achieve. So successful self-managing will lead to your goal achievement, obviously. So achievement orientation, having the role very clear. What is it that I have to do? What are the things that I can do? Okay, having the role clear and having the goal clear is very, very important for an achievement-oriented person. An emotionally intelligent person will have all this already thought of. Okay, he uses the neocortex well. He sees what are the things that that is required from my side and what is it that is what are the resources that is available, and he'll be able to manage himself with the available resources. So people strong in this skill will do determine what is important and they will prioritize. So achievement orientation means you need to be very clear what is important. You must have heard about what is important and what is urgent. So focusing on the important aspect is so important, okay, and not the urgent aspects. So you understand that and you prioritize those things. keeping pride away from getting into the way of actions. So I am doing this, I am doing that. Keep the pride away. Look for actions that helps and avoid that don't. Okay, take care of themselves to perform their best. You take care of yourself. You need to see that you are equipped well. You need to see that your body is fine. You are healthy. Your mind is healthy. You have enough information. You take care of yourself. Admit when there is a problem. Only when you admit that there is a problem, you will be able to see the solutions for the problem. Otherwise, you have to work along with it. Reward themselves for achieving the goal. Taking pride is different. Rewarding oneself is different. Reward can be even taking, say, half a day off and relaxing. That also can be a reward. Or no, acknowledging oneself. Only when you acknowledge your own self, you will be able to acknowledge others, appreciate others. So achievement orientation has all these characteristics. And the final characteristic of self-management is the initiative. So initiative is where you take charge and you are proactive in doing something. Okay, so studies have shown that effective leaders show more initiative, while the managers are more oriented towards planning exercise. So leaders have the initiative of bringing something new. Okay, so people with high initiative skill always look for continually developing themselves. They make lifestyle changes. They get more education. They learn new skills. They develop. See, all these things only unless somebody is pushing me. If you look forward somebody to push you to get more education, to get more new skills, and to develop new things to improve yourself, that is not initiative. Somebody else is taking initiative of developing you. But when you take the initiative of enriching yourself with different kinds of stuff, even making lifestyle changes for that matter, all these says that you are initiative. One more thing we need to understand is, when we take initiative in one area, it doesn't mean that it is going to get close with only that. If I'm going to take initiative in my workplace, definitely it will reflect the initiatives that I'm going to take in my family also. If you're going to take initiative in your family, definitely it will reflect in your workplace also. Initiative is your characteristic. It is not attached with the work or attached with the outside thing. It is something which is inside you. So when you develop this discipline, this state is inside you, you'll be able to see that you are taking initiative in every instances. Even in the road traffic, you'll be seeing that you'll be taking initiative of not crossing the stop line. Okay, you'll be taking initiative of standing just before it, even when you are the first person. So that initiative will reflect in everything. You are a wholesome person. Okay, self-managing cannot be just at workplace. At home, you can be free. No, this self-management is part of the person. Anywhere you are, everywhere you are, you will be expressing this. So this taking initiative is a highly important thing, and you will be taking initiative in problem solving, in conflict resolution. Okay, because highly intelligent, emotionally intelligent person will not look forward to any conflict. They want things to be smooth. They want the other person also to be emotionally intelligent. Only then they'll be able to interact well. They'll be having the plain conversation. Otherwise, they have to come to a different level to talk. So they'll be very okay with conflict resolution. They don't look forward to any conflict. So these are the 6 qualities of self-management. So you can see that self-awareness and self-management, these are the 3 competencies, and these are the 6 competencies of self-awareness and self-management. And this is the basic block. This is the basic foundation upon which the social awareness and the relationship management can be built. Because only when this 2 is good, you'll be able to see how it is impacting your social level. Okay, so this 2 is very important. So the first part says about understanding the emotions. The second part says about managing your emotions. And as I said, coming to the conflict, we have understanding, managing your emotion. And coming to understanding different types of conflict outcomes, there are. This is also very interesting. You must have heard in many other sessions. There are different kinds of conflict outcomes. One outcome would be lose-lose. That is, I also lose, you also lose. I'm not okay, you are not okay. Okay. So this is a conflict where you are very sure that you are also going to lose, and the other person is also going to lose. For instance, suicide bombers. They are also going to lose, the other is also going to lose. You know that, right? So terrorists, these people are very clear in making something bad for themselves and for others. Luckily, most of us will not be in that situation. Otherwise, we will not come to a soft skill development workshop. Okay, so this is one kind of conflict resolution. Another outcome in which most of us would be is win-lose outcome. Okay, this is so the first one is called as spiral downstairs, spirally downstairs. The next, so where it is going to pull both the people downstairs. Whereas this is called as bulldozer. The person who's having this kind of conflict outcome in his mind is having win-lose outcome. Win refers to the self, lose refers to the other. I'm okay, you are not okay. Okay, so win-lose outcome is the bulldozer kind, where you bulldoze the other person, you put him flat down, you go over him. Okay, you want to win. When there is a conflict, I want to win. He should not win. Okay, I am the winner always. Most of us have this. This is called as the competitive mindset. I want to win. I want to win. Okay. From young, we've been trained like that. You have to be first. Okay, right from the child starts to eat food. Can we see who's first? Whether it is you or your sister. Okay. From that time, you are feeding along with the food that you should be winning. The other should lose. Okay, it is very, very terrible. Okay, it's not a good thing. Okay, so that win-lose is it's been given right from a childhood. So even till now, we actually have this in our mind. I need to be good. I have to, in my performance appraisal, I need to be good than the other. Okay, so this is win-lose, being a bulldozer. Other is lose-win, where the person with very low self-esteem exists. Like sometimes people who doesn't care about themselves, but they don't want to hurt others. Okay, so so they are like a doormat. You can walk on me. Yes, I'm a doormat. You can walk on me. Okay, I'm ready to lose. You take all the gain. Okay, so where the self-esteem is so low. So there will be some people like this also. Sometimes at homes, you can see some old grandmothers, they will say, whatever is left out is enough for me to eat. Don't cook anything special for me. Okay, I lose, you win. You have very good thing. You have very good food. When there is some left out rice, some left out veg, some left out rotis, I will have. That is enough. Don't make anything. This is lose win. This is from the home context. Official context also you would have seen, where somebody who is able to do well, they will not be open or confident enough to present it. He always does well. Let him do the presentation. Let him present it. And mine will not be so good there. So they are not even ready to explore whether their work is being appreciated or not. This is lose-win. This is also a conflict outcome. And at this time of lunchtime, we are seeing this is all in one buffet, all the round buffet where everything is plenty. Imagine you're going to this buffet. Okay, will you think that, oh, there are so many people, let me take only very little. Okay, so this curry, I will take only one piece because so many people are there behind me. Will you think like that? You know that this buffet is full and it is going to get replenished. So many people, how many people are there? It is there. This is life. Our life is like an all-filled buffet. Everything is there for everyone. I also win, you also can win. I also win, you also win. Both of us can win. That is the situation. That is the mentality of the emotionally intelligent person. Because everything is there. This buffet kind of life is there for all of us. Okay, so these are the 4 major conflict outcomes. And according to the emotional intelligence, we will be adapting to any one of this. Most of us know in which we are in. You can assess yourself. And what is it that you want to become, you can decide. Okay, accordingly, we can take the different competencies and work on them. So after these 4, there is also 2 more. This is called as win me. Can you guess what it means? All the others were easy. Lose, lose, win, lose.
Controlling our own action, thoughts, emotions, win me.
Then after that, what about the other? In every
Self-centered.
Winning our own.
Yes, self-centered. Then one more word I'm expecting.
Breaking our own records, ma'am, what we have achieved yesterday,
Yes.
comparing our own performances.
Can you see what is the main difference between this icon and all the other four?
Other things we are comparing with others, other parties there, whereas here only our own consciousness or
Yes, only
inner
you are
self.
there. Actually, it may sound positive, but this is the most negative thing. You are not considering the other. You are considered only about me winning. The other, whether he wins or lose, I don't care. But I want to win. I don't know whether you watched this movie called Turbo. It's an animation movie where a small snail will be going in a race, car race. There, the villain will be the champion. And he will be having this mindset where the person is a pakka racer. Okay, he is always the first. And he will be having the mindset that I don't care a damn about anyone else. Whether he wants to win, whether he wants to lose, I don't want. But I want to win. I only want to win. So this is, whatever words that you use, self-centered and self-consciousness, it is not like that. Here, I'm totally into my winning alone. And this is a very negative state to an emotionally intelligent person because there is no other aspect. There is only self aspect. There is no social competence at all. Okay, so this is fourth one. And the next one, win-win or no deal. This is the best, even better than the win-win aspect. Because if I win and you also win, then let us resolve this conflict in that way. Or if anybody is going to lose, let us not have this deal at all. Okay, we are having a conflict on, distribution of land. Okay, only if both of us are going to have satisfactory distribution of the land, we go ahead with this conflict and we resolve it. Otherwise, no deal at all. You also leave, I also leave. You are making sure that both parties win. So this is at a very different level, at a very higher level. This is also one kind of conflict outcomes. So these are all the different conflict outcomes that is possible. And as a emotionally intelligent person, we can choose what is the kind of conflict outcome that we want consciously, and accordingly, just remember it again and again. That is the only technique. It's not that we need to gain some skills and we need to do some practice. The only practice that you need to do is remember it and say, if you've decided that I want to go in for a win-win conflict outcome, remember it always. Whenever there is a conflict, whenever there is an argument, you remember that I also want to win, he also want to win. What is it that I can do? What is it that we can do? So when you remember that, that is the action that you need to do. Okay, then you will automatically get the ways and means of how to achieve that. Okay, so that having that objective is very important. Okay, so for this I have a small video, but I don't know if we have time. This is again with regard to conflict, where you have two aspects. One is cooperativeness and other is assertiveness. When the cooperativeness is very less and the assertiveness is also very less, what we do is we avoid the conflict. Okay, this is a model given by Thomas Kilmann. So I don't want to cooperate. I don't want to get along with the colleague very well. Also, I'm not very assertive to go and get my thing. So what I do, I avoid. I don't even get into the conflict. That is one method of addressing. And I'm very, very cooperative. I'm totally accommodative. I'm just open, but I'm not assertive enough. I don't want to go and make my stand. At that time, I will be in an accommodating state. Okay, that is the red color one. Or I'll be highly assertive. This is the competitive state, the win-lose category. So I'll be in a competing mode where my assertiveness is very high, but my cooperativeness is very less, because I don't want to cooperate with them. I want to be successful. So that is the competing state of conflict. And the center one, compromising, is I also give up something, you also give up something. Okay, it is not both of us winning. it is like partially both of us losing. Okay, I will give this, you give that. Okay, then it is compromising. That is also one kind of conflict resolution. But the best conflict resolution is collaboration. Collaboration is where you also win, I also win. I also gain, you also gain. Both of us need to gain. It is not losing. Lose, lose. It is both of us need to win. Okay, both of us need to get some get some advantage out of the conflict resolution. That is collaboration. For instance, for this collaboration, how much important it is to harness others' core competency also. It is not that I only have to be first, but I also have something good and he also has something good. Each of us help each other, that collaboration mode. So from the competition mode set, the turtle and the rabbit has come to the collaborative mode set, so that they both won or they both had the satisfaction in completing their task. Okay. So finally, I'm coming to the last slide. We have some few tips of how to develop our emotional intelligence in our day-to-day life. So what I'm doing is I'm taking all the 4 bodies of ours. We have the physical body, the mind body, the emotional body, and the spiritual body. And you give some little exercise to all the 4 bodies. So first, the physical body, you need to give at least 3 to 6 hours of exercise or workout per week. That means per day, half an hour minimum. It is only minimum. You can give at least up to 1 hour or 1.5 hours of running or exercise or anything, whichever is feasible to you, whichever is possible to you, or sports, even games with your child, playing, say, cricket or badminton, whatever, or yoga. Okay, and also focusing on your healthy diet. These are the good things, because emotional intelligence is not just with the emotions. It is a wholesome, it is the wholesome individual. You need to tune up everything. As a person, you need to get tuned. Okay, so the body requires exercise, like food, clothing, and shelter. The exercise or body work is also very important for the body. Okay, you can pick up any 1 or 2 for you to take care of the need of the body in terms of body work. Then mind, as I said, breath watching. Not every 5 minutes. Any 5 minutes, if you do in a single day, initially, it is more than enough. It is more, it is really good, because 5 minutes you cannot sit and watch the breath. Immediately the mind will go out, then you have to come in. So maybe I can give you some tips when you do the breath watching. What is it that you need to watch? You just sit up straight, make sure your spinal cord is straight. Okay, your neck and the spine should be straight. You cannot very happily lie on the bed and do this. Sit up straight so that the breathing column is very clear. And when you breathe in, you're inhaling the air, you just notice how much amount of air is going in, or whether it is chill or whether it is warm. And then as it goes in, just imagine the air is going through your esophagus, and till where it is going, till your chest or till your tummy, so or till the lungs. You just see the level of depth that it is going. So these are different ways in which you can make the mind to watch the breath, not wander around. You sit, when you start to breathing, immediately you will think, what is the next thing I have to do? Whether I have to cook, or whether it is already there, or whether, so many things will start to run. So bring it back. So bring it back and give it some job. Give the mind some job. So you notice the temperature first. You notice how many times you are breathing. You notice how slow, whether inhale is taking more time or exhale is taking more time. So like this, you give some job to the mind to watch with regard to the breathing. Only then you will be able to do this at least for 5 minutes. When you start doing it daily, you can improve that. Even for half an hour, you can do it. That is a very beautiful de-stressing technique. Okay, so your mind is now totally cleansed and it is now free of all the clutter that was there already. Now a clean mind will be able to think fresh. Okay, so now you'll be able to see the stressful situation in a different way. It may be the same situation, but it is possible that you can go for a new solution. Planning before starting a previous day. Most of us have this to-do list. You just see whether it is working out. Okay, and visualizing. Visualizing is having some future goal in mind and visualizing it that you have achieved it. Okay, at least twice a day you can do it. In the morning and night before sleep. Any one you can do of these techniques. Okay, so visualize that you have achieved whatever you wanted to achieve, the best teacher, or you are achieving the best performer, whatever that you wanted to do. Then following or updating your mission and vision. This is personal mission and vision, not the organization's mission and vision. For every person need to have a mission and vision. You can frame your own mission and vision and follow and update it at least once in a day or once in 2 days. Okay. Then update your journal of strength. Like we saw in the feedback, you're getting some positives from your friend or from your partner. Note it down and update it now and then. All this will help your mind, to develop. The next one is emotion. So during any upsurge in the emotion, whether it is positive or negative, just witness, just see it as a separate person. Don't get along with it. Okay, you should be the person who should see the emotion. The emotion should not lead you. Okay, whether you're angry or so, see it. And whenever you see it, it will slow down. Okay, if it is happiness, then it's okay. But whether it is fear or anger, you have to detach from it. That is very important. Contemplate every night for 10 minutes. This is my suggestion, but you can have it even in the daytime or during the lunchtime. Talk to a friend or anyone trustworthy. Okay, regarding how you wanted to modulate your emotions or control your emotions. Be empathetic, understanding of the other person, because other person also has similar troubles like us, in dealing with the emotions. So be empathetic. And spiritual needn't be like I'm a spiritual person, nothing like that. But say for instance, meditate doesn't mean like in the story I told, like he sits and does penance. Not like that. Meditation is when you go and water your garden, you do only that. 100% of the time you're focusing on watering the plant, not on what is it that I have to cook, what is it that I have to do after this. Okay, I just rush it. No, you do it 100%. Watering the plant, see the green color, see the new leaf that has come, which was not there yesterday. See whether the flowers is there, whether the bud has come. See how it is. If you want to touch and see, that is meditation. Being totally with the work that you're doing. Okay, when you go and do your office job, you will be totally with that. Otherwise, you will be halfway. You will be doing the work as well as you'll be thinking about something else. What is the next thing that you have to do? So that mix up, that contamination. When you eliminate that contamination, it is called as meditation. Meditation doesn't mean you have to sit and do tapas. Whatever you do, when you do it full, when you eat, after the session, you're going to have lunch. Make sure you only eat, not see that cell phone. Don't respond to the cell phone. Don't watch TV. Don't talk some stories. Watch the food, see the food, eat it. See the color of the food, see how it is going in, see how much granulized you can make it, how much you are seeing the taste of it, how much saliva is getting secreted, how much you are swallowing it. When you do it, you are meditating. Even during eating, you can meditate. See, these are all, I'm also finding it very difficult. It is not easy for me. I'm also trying. I'm also doing little by little. At least 2 meals, I make sure that I don't watch my phone while I'm eating. But sometime during night, I also watch. So correct it. You have to slowly overcome it. You have to do it. So that is meditation. Then value clarification or attention. I told you, like we all have certain values. Sit and think, what is your value? What is very important to you? Value is a separate session itself. You can go through the Google. You can look for Rokich value system. ROKEACH, Rokich value system. There are some 18 different values. Okay, there are some terminal values and there are some the leading values. These 2 types of different value systems are there, and you can see. So one set of value system says about how you want to live. One set of value system says about what you want to achieve. Okay, the means and the end. That is what it says. You just go through it and see what is your value system. Make sure these are the things that is important to me. And whenever you take decisions, be aware that you are taking decisions based on these values. Okay, that awareness is important. And finally, determination and commitments to all the above in this screen. Okay, that is also spiritual. when you're making sure that every day I'm going to do half an hour to 40 minutes exercise, every day I'm going to watch breathe for 5 minutes, every day I'm going to think about my emotion for 10 minutes at night, then, and if you're following it, then you're spiritual. Spiritual doesn't mean you have to follow a guru, you have to follow some god or goddess. This is also spiritual. This is spiritual. So these are all the different ways in which you can, work on improving your emotional intelligence. So this is my last slide. And the time is 1:10. Okay, Vandana or Kavita, I was not able to complete before.
Okay, we are here. Yeah. I
So,
think we can take 1 or 2 questions, right? And
yes,
we'll go.
yes.
Yeah. Maybe you can, participants, you can ask 1 or 2 questions, and if you have any feedback, you want to say something to the facilitator, the floor is open.
Madam, the session is very much interesting, and we got very good insights on human emotional intelligence. Also, all the ways we are more acquainted with the cognitive intelligence, but today we have known emotional intelligence, how we have to balance, and what are the different methods, and how stress management also indirectly explained by the management. By the resource person. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Raju. True.
You can see the chat box, Dr. Anita. Very,
Good
very.
afternoon, ma'am. It was excellent session, and we could have more insights. I think today we got all the new things learned, and it is very practical way of thinking. As you have shared, that tips are very more useful, and it was very apt to us. Actually, we are undergoing that type of trauma now. That is the kind of stress, because nowadays you would have seen post-pandemic, the situation has changed, and mostly we need such type of inputs in order to come out of that trauma, because this we did not view, and we did not think of this situation would have come to us, and we can come out of, and we can cope up with this situation by your class, ma'am. It was very excellent. Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you, Vandana ma'am, Kavita ma'am, for giving this opportunity and unmuting us and to speak directly to the ma'am. Thank you very much, ma'am.
It's a pleasure. Thank you that you derived benefit out of it. So you have excellent comments in the chat box.
Yeah, I will go through them.
Excellent. So I think, yeah, somebody would like.
Maybe you can share the contents so that
Sure.
they can see it and practice. At least 1 or 2 aspects, if we practice, it's enough. Not everything. 1 or 2 will do a major difference.
We'll share the PPTs, Dr. Anita. So I think all are hungry also.
Yes.
So we'll close. I'll share the PPTs with you. Thank you so much, Anita, for that wonderful session. It was really insightful, enlightenment. As I've heard you earlier also, but every time I hear, I am again motivated to follow the tips that you give. And again, it is like you revisit certain things. It is there in the mind, but then we somehow in our daily routine we tend to forget, and when you tend to not focus on these things. And such sessions, again, it makes you revisit and rethink and take and relook at things from a new perspective. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the time. And it has been 4 hours continuously taking. It's not that easy. We appreciate your efforts and the time that you spent. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Vandana.
Thank you, Dr. Kavita, for all the support. Yeah, we'll meet at.
Thank you, everyone. I
Thank you.
enjoyed the session. Thank you so much.
Yeah.